To the Esmeric Art Studio. Today's project is an 8x8 canvas and it is inspired by nature. When I look out, I just see snow and not a lot of green, so I was thinking, you know what, maybe I must do a project with some green in and bring a little bit of fall into this project as well. So shall we get started? For today's project, we are going to need a leaf of some sort, and I'll tell you more about this leaf in a minute or two. And we're going to use either Mod Podge or matte gel. I'm going to use the Mod Podge today. We're going to need a paintbrush, one for the Paverpol and one for the Mod Podge. We're going to need a napkin, and that's where the green comes in. This is just a container that I usually decant my Mod Podge in when I use that. We're going to use masking tape. That is going to be I'm going to share a tip with you when you work with napkins. And we are going to use clear or transparent Paverpol. And then of course we're going to need our canvas. And again, this is an 8x8 canvas, but you can use any size that you have available. A while back I visited a friend of mine for a coffee, and I saw these leaves in her garden and I picked a few. So when I got home, I've added Paverpol to the one side only. I still need to do the other side, which I'm going to do now. But it was so nice. I just could not resist picking up these leaves. So I did the transparent Paverpol on most of them. But there was also a couple that I have added bronze to. So this two, I've added bronze to the or painted the bronze Paverpol, which gives it a completely different effect. I still need to do the back sides. I will get to that soon. As always, when you work with Paverpol, you have to make sure that you stir it very well, which I've already done. So the next step is just going to add Paverpol to the opposite side of our leaf. And again, this one is, I'm using the transparent Paverpol. And it is actually better to do both the sides at the same time if you can, but I just ran out of time. So I have to make do now with struggling a little bit. I don't think it will break as easily as what you are painting Paverpol on dry leaves, because when you paint them on completely dry leaves, it just breaks into pieces. With this one already having the seal coat on the one side, I think the chances of breaking is definitely less than when you use just a plain dry one. So I'm going to continue on and put Paverpol onto this whole leaf. I was just thinking while I was busy painting here, I'm sure you would be able to do this with the Mod Podge as well if you do not have Paverpol. I've never tried it, but maybe this is a way, this is something that I'm definitely going to try once I have the ability to get to some leaves again, because at the moment we had our first big snowfall today, so everything is covered with snow outside, so not much in the terms of leaves. So I will definitely have a look and see if it can work with if you can seal the leaves with Mod Podge, but I can't see that it won't work. Okay, so I'm going to put this off to the side to dry, and then we can move on to our next step. I'm going to use the Mod Podge to adhere the napkin to the canvas. It's a wooden canvas. So this is a tip I got from somebody a very long time ago, and I think this is one of the better tips I got, is when you are separating the napkins, just take a piece of masking tape and put it up there, and you will be able to pull it away. It is so easy, because sometimes you can really struggle to separate the two. So I know from experience that this one has another layer. So when you work with napkins, you have to make sure that you do take all the backings off so that you only are left with the the one or the layer with the design on. But as you can see, it's so easy to separate them. Well, to get the point going. This one is fairly difficult to separate around the edges where it is embossed into each other. And I almost thought I tore it there, but no, I didn't. So just work slowly and keep on separating the napkin until it's completely separated. I've got all the layers separated, and this is what I'm going to use, but you know, you can also use this one because it has sort of that shadow effect. Some of them you don't see any of this when you do separate them, but this one have a very nice shadowing effect that you can use maybe for another project if you would like to do that. I usually seal my Mod Podge just with an extra piece of just glad wrap or plastic wrap, and I usually decant some, so then I know my holder is not standing open the whole, ooh, and that was too much, it's not standing open the whole time, and dries out. And this is where these pieces of napkins that you've just separated come in very handy. I'm just going to close this up again. I will definitely need to find a new piece of the plastic. And when I work with Mod Podge, I prefer using a fan brush. For what reason, I don't know, it just works nice for me. So I'm just going to put a small layer on here, or a thin layer, a small layer. I'm just going to put on a thin layer. And as I'm just moving to the front and the back, I'm not going to do anything on the sides yet. Once this is finished, I will actually grab a green paint and I will just paint the sides green. So just keep on until you have a good coverage. What I do find, if you don't have a complete coverage, it tends to make little bubbles. Well, it can make bubbles in any case, but you have a bigger chance of getting bubbles when you are or when you don't have a full coverage. So next, I'm just going to more or less get the center here. I think that is more or less the center. If it's not, you know what, it's not going to be the end of the world. And then I'm just going to start pushing it out and working it with my fingers from the center outwards. And yes, is there going to be creases? Absolutely, there is going to be creases. I just take it as part of the project. It is part of the, you know, the design. If you do not want to have any creases, I would suggest to start putting it, oops, and there I just put away my whole, wrapped away my whole napkin. So that's something that you have to keep in mind as well, is to work very careful not to wrap away the whole napkin. So what you can do is, it's a fairly white area there, but what I think I might do is, I know that's good design, so I think I'm just going to tear a piece, because I am going to tear these off. So I think I'm just going to add a piece of this back in there. It might not work 100% with the design. I'm just going to add that in, and I'm just going to tear this up. You can, of course, if you want to, you can try and move everything out and redo it. That's another way you can do it. Try and remove it, but I just think this is what I'm going to do. Well, there's still a little bit of a gap there. Let's see if I can just add another piece in there. Oh no, it's sticking on my fingers now. That's what happened when you're working with sticky things. It keeps on sticking. Oh, okay. Oh, I should have turned that one around so that the green is on the green side and the white is on the white side. That would have worked better. Okay, so there you go. I'm just going to do, so once you at this point, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to tear off the sides. When I tear off the sides, all I do is I just come in and I literally just sort of pull it down. And yes, there is going to be some parts where it's going to go, you know, into tear a little bit on the top as well. But I'm going to fold this up in any case. So when I do the green, I'll do a little bit of an accent just to highlight the outside of the canvas. And the thing just keep on, because there's some of the Mod Podge. Somebody said to me the one day, I always call it Mod Podge, and they said to me, no, it's not Mod Podge, it's Mod Podge. So I'm trying to pay attention to how I pronounce it, but I think it's just the way that I've always done it. So how do you pronounce it? Mod Podge or Mod Podge? Well, it is actually Mod Podge. If you look at the spelling, it is Mod Podge. So, okay, so the sides are all done. When you look at the sides of your canvas, you can see there's areas that we didn't tear off properly. A way that you can do it to get rid of it is just taking a piece of sanding paper, and you can just go in and sand down. So if you're going to go and you're going to sand with the grain or like that, you have a bigger chance of actually, you know, lifting up and removing some of those. But again, if you just go downwards like this, you can see you should be able to get rid of most of those that is you know, on the overhang. And again, it's personal preference whether you would like to do that or not. I'm just going to do it for the sake of doing it now. Okay, so I'm going to finish going around all four sides here. All four sides are done now. The one was a little bit more difficult than the others to take off, but I think it's just because there was a whole lot that was still there. So the next step is we're going to add a thin layer of the Mod Podge on top of this. When I decanted the Mod Podge, I decanted a little bit too much, so I threw the rest back in here. This, I'm not even trying to clean it. I will just leave it as is, and then once it's dry, I will just pull one of the sides, loosen it, and then this whole thing will peel off like a skin, or a skin. That is for me a way to do it. You can of course wipe this out if you want to, but I just feel I put it aside and I just pull it out like that. Okay, so I'm going to leave this to dry. I'm using the Deco Art Crafters acrylic. So I have a what do I have here? The forest green, and I also have the Christmas green. I'm just going to put the two next to each other. And next step is I'm just going to mix it. I'm going to try not to touch the top part because I'm too impatient. I can't wait for this to dry forever. So I'm going to go in like this, and I'm just going to mix the two on my brush. And I'm just going to come in and this is a little bit too green for me, so I think I might just add a little bit more of the forest green. I almost said the darker green, but I remember what the name was, the forest green. I'll most probably come in with 2 layers. I think my brush was a little bit wet when I started, and that's why it is so thin, or doesn't go in on as a solid coverage. And again, there was a very thin layer of gesso on this canvas. Usually I buy my 8x8 canvases in bulk. I really like working with the 8x8 size, and I'm gonna wipe that off. So that's a size that you will see me wearing or using quite often. And again, when I buy them, I would just go in and I would paint a thin layer of gesso on all of them. So I'm going to go around and do all 4 the sides and wait for the first layer to dry, and then come back and do a second layer. So what I'm going to do here is, I've just finished the first layer. I'm going to come up with my paintbrush right up until the end there to make sure that everything is covered there. And it's, I don't know if you can pick it up on the video, but it looks like it makes a little bit of almost like a rim there. And I'm just going to go in, I'm going to wrap it down, and now it actually looks as if there is a little bit of a green border. So I'm going to go and do that all around. Again, I'm just putting my brush right up until the edge there. And so I can make sure there is a part that looks as though it is standing up. And again, I'm just going to use my, and this is still the napkin part that we, the backing that we removed. And I'm just going to, okay, this one is a little bit wider than the other one, but again, you know what? This is art. And you can come in and wipe some of it off, or you can go in and do that one a little bit thicker or wider. It doesn't matter. It's all about personal preference. I might do that other one a little bit wider just to keep it sort of uniform. Never stress about things like this, because once you start stressing about this, it's not going to be fun anymore to do it. Actually, this one is again a different one, so it's just to round it off so that you don't have, you know, that, say, okay, this is where the one starts and this is where the other one finished. So you just give it sort of a continuity. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, that's sometimes mid-sentence, I lose some of my words. I don't know if it happens to you as well. I call it old age. So that's my excuse. So I'm back at the first one, and yes, I am making it a little bit wider just because the other 3 sides didn't pan out as nice as the first one did. So I'm just doing this one now a little bit wider too. And I'm going to try and use some of this that's on the napkin, this backing. There you go. So we have some kind of a border over there. It is very uneven, but you know what? It just rounds it off. It gives it a little border. I'm going to leave this to dry, and then I'm going to paint a second layer on the sides. The sides are painted. It's dry, and I've also gone ahead and I have painted the inside of the canvas, or the back side of the canvas. And so next is just placing our leaf. This is where the napkin pulled away when we were busy doing it, so I'm just gonna look and see. I think if I leave that at the bottom, it's going to be the least noticeable, because when it's off to this, oh, mind you, off to the side, but you see it through there. It's usually when you do something like this and there is, just look where your mistake or your mishap is going to be the least noticeable. I really think, yeah, I think I'm going to go with it, and I'm going to keep it at the bottom. So I'm going to glue this down. I'm just going to cut this off. No, I'm first going to adhere my leaf, and then I'm going to cut that off. So for adhering, I'm just going to use glue. I was considering lifting it up to raise it just to give it another level, but then I was thinking, no, there it's lifting, there it's lifting, there. I don't know if I'm going to glue the stem down, so I'm just going to put some glue on there. There is a couple of spots here where I did put the Paverpol on a little bit too thick. I just think my transparent Paverpol, there must have been a time when I most probably just left it open too long, because it feels like it's a little bit thick. Maybe if I remove that, so I'm just going to put some of this glue on. And this glue that I'm using is the 450 quick dry. It is a quick dry glue, but it also gives you time to still work with your project. And it's actually a fabric glue, but really I use it for everything, and it just works, especially when I work with metal embossing, because it sticks to the wax, and there's very few glues that is actually sticking to the wax. I just want to make sure that I have a good coverage on here when I'm going to put it down. And as for spacing, I'm going to put it more or less in the center like that. Yep. I think I'll move it slightly, and I'm just going to close the glue, and I'm going to push down the leaf. So it usually takes a couple of minutes. It says quick drying, but it's not that quick drying. You have to just keep it down for a while. And looks a little bit, and this is what I like, because you still have that little bit of moving or working time with this glue. So I'm just going to put that down, and I think I'll just cut this there. Maybe I'm going to put a dollop of glue at the bottom and just glue that down. And another reason why I like working with this glue is when it seeps out, you can actually remove it very easily. Okay, so that's done. I actually could have left that a little bit longer, but now it's off, so it is what it is. Okay, oh, there's glue on there. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to put on my name, and then we can just recap our project. Our very green canvas is done, and it actually looks nice when you look at it closer up, just with the lighting that's in the studio. But you know, this is something that you can do from your own garden. When you pick up a leaf, or you find something that is out there that is really interesting looking, do something with this. Hang it up in your house. You can make art from basically everything. So again, thank you so much for joining me in the studio today. And always remember, the world of reality has its limits, but the world of imagination is boundless.